Pious deeds, pious deeds, pious deeds, pious deeds. Oh Allah, bless us with pious deeds, with pious deeds.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, as-salatu was-salamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, amma ba'd, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Rasulullah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Nabi Allah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nur Allah. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, welcome to another silsila of pious deeds. Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal. We've been talking about many of the pious deeds, but the pious deed which we're going to talk about today is very unique. Why? Because this is a deed, it's an action when we actually are not availing it in front of others. We're not making others aware of this action. We're actually hiding our action. And our topic today is hiding one's deeds. Inshallah, this is such a pious action that this will take us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This will elevate our ranks. This will be a means of great forgiveness and much more benefit of blessings one can gain by hiding his deeds. Let's start by listening to a fazila, a benefit of reciting salutation, peace and blessings upon the best of mankind, the Holy Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. The Holy Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam says, whoever likes this, that Allah Azza wa Jal is pleased with him when he is presented in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, should recite salat upon me in abundance. Sallu alal Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, if you want that our Creator Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with us, then recite salutation, peace and blessings upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in abundance, and inshallah as well, this will be a means of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also a unique action which is a means of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is when someone actually hides his actions, he hides his deeds. This also pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the people who hide their actions in this way, they were accepted in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's a very unique story about a great companion of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam, and the time of the Amir al-Mu'mineen, when Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he conquered the lands of Rome and Persia. These the two superpowers were overtaken, and the Muslims spread out to other lands like Syria, Sham, Yemen. All these places were overtaken by Muslims. Amir al-Mu'mineen Sayyidina Umar Farooq Azam radiallahu ta'ala would place governors there, and then he would take a report from these people. He would ask the people regarding them. Once the Amir al-Mu'mineen Sayyidina Farooq Azam radiallahu ta'ala, he asked the people of Homs, is there anything about Sayyidina Amir radiallahu ta'ala which you do not like? The people of Homs, they presented four things in the court of Amir al-Mu'mineen Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala. The four complaints were, number one, that we don't see him in the early hours of the morning, meaning he comes out after sunrise. This is when we will see him. And then at night he seems to disappear. We don't see him at night at all. So the whole night we don't see him. And the third complaint they put forward was that once a month, there comes one day in a month which we don't see him at all. We don't see him for the whole day. And the fourth complaint was every now and then he goes into a state and he has a fit and he passes out. These were four things which the people of Homs, they put forward into the court of Amir al-Mu'mineen as complaints. But the reality was these were not complaints. When Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala, he came into the court of Amir al-Mu'mineen Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala. The Amir al-Mu'mineen Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, he asked Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala about these four things that the people of Homs have complained that they don't see you in the early hours of the morning. You come after sunrise. They don't see you in the late hours of night. At night they don't see you at all. And once a month they don't see you at all the whole day. And every now and then you pass out. What are the reasons for this? Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala, he replied, for the first thing, that why I do not come out in the early hours of the morning and I come out after sunrise, because my wife is ill and I don't have any slave, I don't have any ghulam to serve or to look after the household, so I do all the household work myself, and then I come out after sunrise. The second complaint was that we don't see you in the late hours of night. Hazrat Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala, he said to the Amir al-Mu'mineen, "Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, I spend the whole day serving my people, serving my community, but at night I keep that time for my Creator Allah Azza wa Jal." Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. The third complaint was that once a month we don't see you at all. Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala replied that I only have one pair of clothing, and that one day in that month I wash them clothes and I leave them to dry, because it takes the whole day for them clothes to dry. I don't come out of my house. The fourth complaint was every now and then he passes out. Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala replied, he says that when Sayyidina Habib bin Adi radiallahu ta'ala who was martyred in front of me, at that time I had not embraced Islam, I had not accepted Islam, but when this thought comes to my mind, when this scene comes in front of my mind, that how I wish that at that time I would have embraced Islam, I would have been amongst the believers, and I would be able to help him or to stop them causing harm to him. When this thought overcomes my mind, it overtakes me, and I pass out because of this. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, when Amirul Mu'mineen Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, he heard this regarding Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala, there were tears flowing from his blessed eyes. He continued to cry in such a way that sound was heard. Allahu Akbar. This was Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, just try to understand how the Sahaba Ikram alayhim ridwan, how these great personalities, they would hide their good actions in such a way that he's a governor of Homs, yet the people of Homs are unaware of his goodness, of his actions. They are unaware that how he spends his night. They are unaware that one day a month he doesn't come out at all. What is the reason behind this? They are unaware that he is going through a difficulty. He's doing all the housework. Why? Because his wife is ill. They are unaware. Look at how the people hide their good actions. This thing today, if you were to be in a bit of a difficulty, we would be telling everyone of our situation. If our family member was ill, we'd be telling everyone, this is why I can't come to the masjid. This is why I can't do this. Yet the people of Homs, he was a governor. The people of Homs were unaware that his wife was not well, and he would spend the early hours of the morning serving them. Look at the complaint of the people. He would still spend the whole day, but it was the early hours of the morning before sunrise, the people would not see him, and they complained. This was the complaint. And look at Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu anhu reply. And the other thing is the ibadat at night which he would do. People were unaware of his ibadat, his worship. Today, if you were to do a little action, everyone is aware of that. If you were to keep a nafli fast, we make sure that everyone knows that we are fasting today. If we got up for tahajjud at night, we make sure that everyone is aware that we got up and performed tahajjud. Like this, when we give sadaqah, when we do a bit of charity, everyone seems to be aware. Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala, how he's consuming, how he's hiding his good deeds in such a way that he's lived amongst the people for many years, yet the people of Homs are unaware that Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala, he spends the whole night in performing his ibadat. It's only when the Amirul Mu'mineen Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala asked Sayyid bin Amir that the people came to know that Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala would spend the whole night in ibadat. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, we should try to hide our good actions in this way. Today, when we do any good worship, try to hide your good actions in this way. When we spend the night in worship, make sure that no one is aware of our good actions, that we hide them in this way. This is great virtue. And also look at the passion of this great companion of the Prophet ﷺ, that he has one pair of clothing and he's hiding that action, that he's not letting the people know that the state of his poverty is, the state how poor he is, that he has one piece of clothing, and that one piece of clothing he washes on that one day. This is the reason why he couldn't come out once a month. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. This is how humble these people were. The wealth they had, they would distribute in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They would survive on just one pair of clothing. They would fast in abundance. They would spend the night in ibadat. They would do all the household work, yet people were unaware of their actions. Subhanallah, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, how I wish that we could also hide our actions in this same way. This was Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala. Once once the Amir al-Mu'minin Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, he asked his companion, tell me what you would desire. One of the companions replied, I would take the army and fight in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another person said, I would desire that I had wealth and I would give it out in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And say now, Farooq Azam, Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, talking about his own desire, he said that I wish they had people like Sayyid bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala, and I would make them governors over the lands. Subhanallah, when Sayyidina Farooq Azam radiallahu ta'ala, when he was saying this, he started to cry so much that he could not complete his sentence, and all he was saying was Rahimahullah, Rahimahullah, Rahimahullah. Subhanallah, may Allah be pleased with them and grant us forgiveness for their sake. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, these were the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. These were the people who were governors over lands. These were the leaders of the Muslims. And look at the great leaders themselves. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Hazrat Umar bin Khattab, he is also a commander. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala, he is also the leader of the believers. And there is a very unique story about them too as well. The Sayyidina Farooq Azam radiallahu ta'ala, at night he would carry out work for a blind elderly woman, and he would carry out a household work. This woman lived in the area of Madinatul Munawwara, and he would carry out all her tasks as a routine. He would go and do all this work. One day he went to the elderly woman's house, but he was astonished to see that someone already had carried out the work before him. The following day he arrived and it was the same situation, that the work had already been carried out. The third day Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala went, the work had also been carried out. He was very anxious as to which individual would have pursued these good deeds. One day he came during the day and he hid himself, and at night he saw that the Khalifa of the Muslimin, the Amirul Mu'mineen, the leader of the believers, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, he arrives and he performs all the work for the elderly woman. He carries out all the work for the elderly woman, and he was astonished that despite being the Khalifa of the Muslims and someone who does not have time, yet he will make time for this, and he was so humble. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala himself exclaimed, it is indeed Amirul Mu'mineen, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, who had always pursued me in good deeds. Subhanallah, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, these were the leaders of the believers. These were the commanders of the believers. These were people who had great responsibilities of overlooking lands and overlooking so much other responsibilities. Yet they would still carry out good actions, hiding themselves, making sure that no one was aware of their actions. And my dear viewers of Madani Channel, the pious people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were unique in this way also, that they would hide their actions, not just hide their actions, but they would supplicate in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will make dua in the court of Allah. Ya Allah, give me the ability to keep my actions hidden away from the people. It is mentioned that a pious predecessor would make dua that, oh Allah Almighty, bless me abundantly with your grace and generosity, but keep me unknown amongst the people so that they do not recognize me. One night he was crying in Salah, and the people saw a radiant lantern, a light above his head, and the brightness of this dazzled the eyes of people. The next morning, the saint's miracle of night was mentioned to him regarding his worship, which had been made apparent to the people. Suddenly he lifted his hands in the court of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he prayed that, oh my Lord, oh bearer of the secrets, my secrets has become apparent, hence I do not desire to live after attaining fame. Saying this, he placed his head in sajda. People began to move his body. They realized that his soul had departed. The soul had left his body. Rahmatullah alayh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us forgiveness for their sake. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, just try to think for a moment that if any of the action became known amongst the people, the saints of Allah, they would supplicate in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, first of all, don't make people aware of my action, and secondly, if then the actions were to be unveiled in front of people, they would supplicate in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their supplications would be answered, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would grant them death because they didn't want to become famous. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, Just try to think for a moment. If we gained a bit of fame today, we done a bit of good deed today, we want people to know. Today you see people that when they are doing good action, they are taking a selfie, they are taking a picture of that action, they're making people aware. Today when people are helping the poor, people are having the pictures taken, making sure that everyone is aware that they've done this good action, and then that is put on their profile, on their social media account, so that everyone is aware they have done this. If someone has helped a person who's in need of water, who is in need of food, who is in need of a house, and then they will be posting this and making everyone aware of this action. If someone has built a masjid, they make people, everyone aware that we have done this good deed, we have done this good action. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, just try to think that our saints, rahimahumullah, they would hide, they would consume their good action, and we should try to hide our good actions in this way. And the pious people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although they would live amongst people, they would still consume, they still hide the good deeds. Is mentioned that Abu Hassan Muhammad bin Aslam, he will be very cautious about concealing his good deed, so much so that once said that if I had it my way, I would even hide from the two angels that record the deeds when worshipping. Subhanallah. It's mentioned that Sayyidina Abu Abdullah rahmatullah alayhi states that I remained in the company of Abu Hassan rahmatullah alayhi for over 20 years, but I was unable to see him offer 2 rakat of nafal, voluntary prayer, except for the Jummah or the Faraiz or the Wajib Salah, because he would take a bowl of water with him into the room and lock the door from inside. I never came to know what he would be doing in his room until one day his son began to cry excessively and his mother was trying to make him silent. I asked, why is the child crying so excessively? She replied, his father Abu Hassan rahmatullah alayhi recites the Quran in that room and he cries whilst reciting it, so that the child too begins to cry out of hearing the father crying. Sheikh Abu Abdullah rahmatullah alayhi states that in order to abstain from harms of ostentation, from showing off, Sayyidina Abu Hassan rahmatullah alayhi would strive to keep his good deeds deeply concealed, deeply hidden, in such a way that before leaving his allocated room of worship, he would wash his face. Allahu Akbar. He would wash his face and apply oil in his eyes so that no one could tell that he has been crying. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, try to understand the pious predecessors, rahimahullah, how they would be concealing, they hiding the good deeds. They weren't letting people know of their good action. And this is something that our beloved Prophet ﷺ has encouraged us to also conceal and hide our good deeds. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said, whoever has the ability to conceal his good deeds, then he should do so, i.e. concealing his good deeds. The merciful Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam has stated that zikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, which even the observing angels are unable to hear, is 70 times better than the zikr of Allah Azza wa Jal they are able to hear. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, how we've been emphasized to hide the good deeds, and these good deeds which are hidden, they are indeed more greater than those which are unveiled in front of people. In such a way, the Holy Prophet ﷺ says, whoever offers 2 rakat nafal in such a way that other than Allah Almighty and His angels, nobody else sees him, freedom from hell is described for him. The beloved Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam said, the person who offers nafal salah in such a place where nobody can see him is better than 25 salahs that were offered in front of people. Also the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam has said, giving charity in secret extinguishes the wrath of Allah Azza wa Jal. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, no doubt there are some actions which we can't keep hidden. For example, our farz prayers, those actions which we need to be revealing in front of people, but the nawafil, optional actions, we need to keep them hidden. So my dear viewers of Madani Channel, this is our topic today, about concealing, about hiding our good actions. Try to keep your good actions hidden. It is mentioned regarding Sayyidina Daud Ta'i rahmatullah alayhi, who fasted for 40 years continuously. And even his own household was unaware of his action. He would take the food in the morning and he would give it out to someone, and at night he would come and break the fast after Maghrib when he returned from work. Subhanallah, even his own family members were unaware of his actions. We make dua in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us sincerity and this passion of hiding and concealing our good actions so that we can gain the nearness of Allah. We can gain this extra reward. We make dua in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the ability to keep our good actions hidden. Ameen. Bijahin Nabil Ameen sallallahu ta'ala sallam. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala.
Pious deeds, pious deeds, pious deeds, pious deeds. Oh Allah, bless us with pious